Sarah, every time I hear the word roticity, I picture a posh linguist swirling a glass of something expensive. But honestly, it's one of those terms that feels slippery. What does it actually mean in the London context?
That image kills me, Paul. But you're right, it's a loaded term. Rhoticity is basically about whether people pronounce the at the end of words or before consonants. In London, that simple R sound is almost like a badge of where you fit in, linguistically and sometimes socially.
So, in some London accents, the R just vanishes, but in others, it's dead obvious. It almost sounds like the presence or absence of R is a subtle code for identity.
Exactly. It signals a lot: class, neighborhood, even if someone's trying to sound more formal. The tricky part is, most of us don't realize how much we're signaling with a single letter.
You know, that kind of makes me wonder, how did London actually end up as a non-rotic city? Was it always like this? Or did something trigger the shift?
That's such a classic London story. It used to be more rhotic a few centuries ago, but by the late 18th to early 19th century, upper-class Londoners started dropping the R, probably as a way to sound distinct from the provinces.
So, if I'd been walking through London in, say, 1700, I'd have heard way more pronounced ers?
Totally. But after a while, the non-rotic style just spread, almost like a fashionable accent. It trickled down from the elite and eventually became the norm for most Londoners.
Here's something I've always found funny. Received pronunciation, or RP, is often called the Queen's English, but hardly anyone in actual London speaks it natively. Why is that?
It's wild, isn't it? RP is more like an ideal than a local accent. It's non-rotic, but it's also super standardized. It became the accent of education, the BBC. The law court's almost a language of power rather than a true tongue of the people.
So RP is non-rotic too, but with its own flavor. Do you think people consciously imitate it? Or does it just sort of seep in through media and institutions?
A bit of both, honestly. Some folks actively train their voices to sound RP for work, but most of us pick up bits of it passively, just through exposure.
But then, with Cockney, there's this strong association with working-class London and a totally different use of R. Is Cockney rhotic at all?
Actually, original Cockney is non-rhotic as well, much like RP, but it's got its own spin. The R might pop up in unexpected places, especially with linking and intrusive R, but you don't hear it at the end of words like car or better.
So even though both RP and Cockney drop the final R, they still sound wildly different. That must be down to other features, right?
Absolutely. Things like vowel shifts, glottal stops, and slang give Cockney its punch. The missing R is more like one puzzle piece in the whole Cockney identity.
Moving to Multicultural London English, or MLE, things get even more layered. Has MLE brought any fresh takes on Rhoticity?
Emily's fascinating because it's a blend of dozens of language backgrounds. It remains mostly non-rhotic, but you'll hear hints of rhoticity from speakers with Caribbean roots or when code switching. So sometimes that R sneaks back in, depending on who's speaking and when.
That's cool, like a linguistic remix. Does that make the R sound less of a boundary marker now, or does it just add more nuance?
I'd say it adds complexity rather than erasing boundaries. Now, the R can signal all sorts of identities, not just class or formality, but also heritage or peer group.
You just mentioned linking and intrusive R. Those are such London quirks. Can you break down the difference for folks who might not know?
Of course. Linking R happens when a word ending in R is followed by a vowel so far away gets that sneaky R in the middle. Intrusive R is even cheekier. Londoners sometimes add an R where there's none written, like an idea of, sounding like idea of.
It's almost like Londoners can't resist gluing their words together. I always think of intrusive R as a kind of mischievous accent signature.
That's such a fun way to put it. It shows how spoken language bends the rules in the name of easier flow.
So, the linking R is hanging on even as most final Rs disappear from regular speech. Why do you think that is?
It's almost like the linking R serves a practical purpose. It prevents awkward gaps between words. Even the poshest speakers use it when it makes sentences flow better. Sometimes, efficiency just trumps the official rules.
It's a bit like language's version of a life hack smooth things out, even if it breaks the spelling rules.
Exactly. It's a tiny detail, but it keeps conversation moving in that classic London rhythm.
That does make me curious when people drop the R. Is it always about fitting in, or is there more at play?
There's a lot at play. Sometimes dropping the R is subconscious, just part of growing up in London. But in other cases, people might consciously switch to non-rotic speech to sound more London, or conversely, add the R to sound more formal or less local.
So it's not just habit, it can be a strategic choice, depending on the situation.
Definitely. It's like a social toolkit. Some people even switch their R usage based on who they're talking to, family, friends, job interviews. It's pretty savvy.
Have you noticed younger Londoners playing with the R in new ways? I feel like accents are getting more fluid every year.
That's spot on. Young Londoners, especially in diverse neighbourhoods, mix features from RP, Cockney and MLE. Sometimes you'll hear a cheeky rhotic R in what's basically a non-rotic sentence. It's becoming less predictable.
I love that it keeps everyone guessing. Almost like linguistic jazz improvised, but with a nod to tradition.
That's a perfect analogy. It shows how language evolves as a living thing shaped by the people who use it.
Now that London's a global city, do you think Roticity has gained or lost importance in marking someone as a Londoner?
It's complicated on one hand. With so many international accents in the city, the dropped R is less of a strict boundary. But on the other hand, it still signals Londonness to locals. It's just one piece in a much bigger linguistic puzzle now.
So it's almost like a secret handshake. Only those tuned in really notice it.
Exactly. It's subtle, but still meaningful if you know what to listen for.
That actually reminds me of all the times tourists get tripped up by London accents. I've heard people mishear entire words just because the R is dropped or inserted.
So true. I once had a friend who thought Law and Order was Law and Order, all because of intrusive. It's a real hurdle if you're not used to how Londoners join their words.
And for learners of English, that invisible R is like a secret dance step nobody writes down.
It makes learning London English a bit of an adventure, doesn't it? But also, that's what gives the city's sound its unique charm.
Let's throw out some real examples. Say, the word car. How would you hear it pronounced in R, P, Cockney, and MLE?
In RP, it's a crisp car, no R. Cockney is similar, but often a bit broader call. MLE can sound like either. But you might catch a barely there R, depending on the speaker's background.
And then as soon as you get car alarm, suddenly there's a linking car, alarm. It's like the accent flips a switch mid-sentence.
Spot on. It's those shifts that make London English endlessly fascinating to dissect.
So after all this, why does it matter if London says it's ers or not? Is it just tradition? Or is it still shaping identity?
I'd say it's both a living tradition and a mirror for how Londoners see themselves. Dropping the R links you to a long local history, but how you use it today can say a lot about who you are and who you want to be.
And honestly, it keeps language nerds like us endlessly entertained. Looking forward to digging deeper next episode.
Me too, Paul. The London lingo never sleeps, neither should our curiosity.